Welcome into PressBox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. With me is the one and only Gary Stein of Studio 83. And as soon as I read the sponsor read, I will introduce our young, handsome guest that is on the stage, and he is from All Facts Media. We'll talk to him in just a minute. I'll let you know that this Zoom is brought to you by the Costas Inn. Everybody watching this Zoom knows the Costas Inn is an incredible place to go and sit and dine in at 4100 North Point Boulevard. But did you know that the Costas Inn is one of the great takeout places in and around Baltimore? You can still get crabs, you can still get crab cakes, you can get soup, you can get steaks, you can get anything you want at the Costas Inn. The phone number is 410-477-1975. Tell them Stan the Fan and Gary Stein sent you. Now, to that handsome and well-spoken young man below, Aaron Robinson, our guest. And Aaron, I have to admit, I don't do this often, but I got a real strong tout from our editor, Luke Jackson, that he loves him some Ace Robinson. So welcome to the show.
Hey, man, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be on, and shout out to Luke for speaking so kindly about me. I appreciate that, man. Luke and I have done a few games here in the area this year, and I'm a fan of his as well, so shout out to him for having me on.
You know, a few weeks ago, he was speaking very highly of Putin, President Putin. Hey, all kidding aside, before we talk about what you do with your writing, how you cover basketball, you got two jerseys on behind you. You got the black one says Quinnipiac, number 0, and the one where your head is blocking is Coppin 0. So you played at both schools. Tell us a little bit about your time as a basketball player and what that may do for your insights into what you write, Aaron.
Yeah, so I grew up in the area. I grew up in the greater DC area in Silver Spring, Maryland, and Tacoma Park area. So I grew up playing for a team called the DC Warriors. We had a number of Division I players that played for that team. Myself, I have a twin brother named Andrew Robinson that I grew up with. Our point guard, Johnny Schuler, ended up playing at LaSalle. We had a big guy that went to Georgia Tech and then Ohio, another big guy. He went to started at St. Bonaventure. He actually played at Chattanooga in the tournament, so I had the opportunity to watch him in the dance this year, which was a lot of fun. But we had a really good team. I grew up, my older brother, actually, his name was Billy Edel, and he went to DeMatha and then Oak Hill and then played at Syracuse. And he won a championship in 2003 with Carmelo Anthony, so I grew up watching him on TV. And I said, man, I want to be like my older brother one day and play on TV and play Division I college basketball. So I was able to earn a scholarship to play at Quinnipiac, and I went there. Prior to that, I played at Springbrook High School for 4 years. And then I did a postgraduate year at Putnam Science Academy up in Connecticut for one season where my brother and I played with Hamidou Diallo, who now plays for the Pistons in the NBA. We played a season with him, which was a lot of fun there at Putnam Science Academy. And then went to Quinnipiac for 4 years, played for Coach Tom Moore for 2 years, and then played for Baker Dunleavy for the final 2 years. And then I had a 5th-year of eligibility because I redshirted for my sophomore year. So transferred down here, back home to Coppin State, and played for Juan Dixon for my last year here, down here in Baltimore. And I've been here ever since, man. So it's been an extremely fun journey, obviously playing my whole life and, playing for a bunch of different coaches and having the opportunity to play with and against some of the best players in the country and watching those guys even now on TV, like, it's crazy. I played against Donovan Mitchell growing up, played with Markelle Fultz and Luka Garza and a bunch of guys. It's just crazy seeing them and what they're doing now. And like you said, though, I started my own platform, me and my brother, called All Facts Media, and that's helped us immensely just to be able to, to just speak about the game. But also, like, we have a podcast called The Auto Bid where we'll have different coaches and players come on with us, and so be able to kind of leverage those relationships has been really key in terms of getting people to come on, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm very blessed to have been able to play the game as long as I did and to be able to do what I do now, and it's a lot of fun. So it's definitely been a full circle journey for sure.
So let me just ask you, what do you think of the job that Juan Dixon has done and is doing currently at Coppin? Is he getting the job done?
Juan's doing an outstanding job at Coppin State, man. I think he's gotten better each and every year, right? That he's been there. Obviously, he took over a very tough situation at Coppin State, and every year he's gotten better. I mean, the year before I got there, I think they only didn't win any non-conference games. I think they only won like 7 games the entire season. And then my year, I think we tied the record, or we were one off of tying the record for non-conference wins. We beat Loyola Chicago on the road that year. We beat ECU on the road that year. Beat JMU on the road that year by like 20. We beat Cornell at home. We won like 4 non-conference games, which was the first time. That was the first time that Juan Dixon had ever won a non-conference game at Coppin. So that was a lot of fun. And then we ended up earning a top 5, or I think it was a 6th seed in the MEAC tournament, which we had a first round bye in the MEAC tournament that year. And unfortunately, that was the COVID year where the world shut down, so we never got to play in that tournament. But then the following year, obviously, he gets Anthony Tark and Nenda Tark to come and commit there. And obviously, both of those guys did outstanding thing. Nenda was the Rookie of the Year. Anthony Tark was the Player of the Year and the Defensive Player of the Year. They went to the MEAC semifinals and they won a regular season title last year. And then this year, they made the run all the way to the championship game. So, they've gotten a little further every year. I think he's on the verge of really turning that thing around and kicking the door. And so he's done an outstanding job, man. And I think it's only the sky's the limit for him at Coppin State.
Yeah.
But let me ask you about Juan a little bit, though, further. Like, Fang Mitchell was there, but before, obviously, and he was there for 30 years, whatever it was, ran a great program, had a lot of the same issues that Juan did. Obviously, he had to go non-conference, play the guarantee games, make $80,000 a game, whatever it was, et cetera. That's a tough way to go. So my question is for Fang Mitchell to be at Coppin, that's one thing. Fang Mitchell was there for 30 years. He never really took seriously an opportunity to get out of Coppin, right? But I'm thinking that Juan Dixon wants to get a higher job. So my question is, can he do that coming from Coppin, knowing that his record is always going to more than likely be a losing record? How does that look to the outside?
Yeah, it's crazy because we've spoken about this a lot more, honestly, in the last year or so, just with everything that's happening in society. But it's really hard for MEAC and HBCU coaches in the MEAC, coaches in the SWAC, particularly to get higher jobs. We've seen Lavelle Moulton have extreme success, and he's still at Central, and Rob Jones at Norfolk have extreme success, and he's still at Norfolk. And obviously, there's been great coaches in the SWAC that haven't gotten better jobs, and it's a struggle, man. It's something that's very hard. What I will say is that I think Juan Dixon has something that a lot of those guys don't have, in the fact that he played in the NBA and he has real
he's got a name
recognition. So his situation is a little bit different just because of who he is. In that if the right job were to come available, I think he would have a chance to do it, just because of the fact that at the end of the day, it's about getting players and getting recruits, and how you're going to sell that to an athletic director. And Juan Dixon would be able to sell that easily, because of who he is and because of what he's been able to do and the guys he's been able to get to Coppin. So I think, although it's extremely hard, because like I said, they're going to look at your record and see, you've only won, 30, 35, 40% of your games, over the course of your time here. But, I think because of the way that, he's been able to improve every year, and because of who he is as a person, I think his case would be a lot different, than a lot of the MEAC coaches. Even if you saw Mo Williams was at, I want to say it was Alabama State or Alabama A&M in the SWAC. He's got the Jackson State job. Granted, it's another SWAC job, but his record wasn't even that great at Alabama A&M for him to get another job. But obviously, he's Mo Williams, so that appeals a little different for those guys that have some juice behind their name. They can get themselves to other jobs. And again, that Jackson State is a SWAC job, so he jumped another job in the league. But for guys like that, I do think it's a little bit different when we talk about getting other opportunities.
So Ace, let me ask you one more question. I know, and Stan's probably we're gonna talk about the NCAA tournament that actually the Sweet 16 starts tonight. But
it's underway. It's underway. Gonzaga's up 5-2 in the early going.
Gotcha. But I wanted to get your perspective on this. As you know, I'm sure a few years ago, UMBC pulled off the only 16-1 upset in the NCAA history. And, playing at Coppin, and you played against a lot of, Power 5 top-notch teams on the road in very difficult situations. I'd like to get your perspective as a player, playing for a small school, going to a Power 5 gym in front of 15,000 people, and more often than not losing that game, right? What happens? What's the difference between a Coppin State and a Kansas when you actually get onto the floor and play?
Yeah. The biggest difference is the size and athleticism, and it's really more so the big man than it is the guard, because obviously, like, for example, my year at Coppin State, like I'm 6'5", 6'6". My brother is 6'5", 6'6". And we were the 2 and the 3 on the wing. And obviously, our point guard was DeJuan Clayton. He was, I believe, about maybe 6'2", 6'3", something like that. We had a 7-footer at the 5. Brandon Medley, big hitter, leaving, actually going to VCU after that year. Kobe Thomas was like athletic, 6'6", power forward. But I think the difference is more so like their wings are like 6'7", 6'8", and athletic, and they got 2, 3, 4, 5, 7-footers. I remember when I was at Quinnipiac, we had a chance to play Gonzaga in the East Pan Invitational down in Florida. This year they had Karnowski was starting at the 5, Jonathan Williams was starting at the 4. Their backup big was Zach Collins. The other backup big was Killian Tilly. Their 5th big man was Rui Hachimura. And it was like, yo, their 5th big man is an NBA lottery pick. It's like you have literally like 5, 6, 7-footers. It's like it doesn't end with them, you know. So it's like
it doesn't stop.
The athleticism and the size is so overwhelming at that level. So it's like for example, a team, any major team, St. Peter's this year, we've seen every day have success in the tournament, which has been unbelievable because they don't even really have a lot of. They don't have a lot of size, but they're really tough and they guard, and those dudes, like they have a toughness about them. Like if you don't have like tough physical guy, you don't stand a chance against those high majors, because they're just so athletic and so strong and so big. Like that's really what overwhelms you. It's usually just like at a certain point in the game, the physicality starts to wear on you. It's like these shots I used to make over maybe not a contest in a MEAC, I gotta finish over a 7-footer at the rim. It's a different experience. So then defensively, guys are so athletic and obviously when you're going up against guys that are that much stronger, that much bigger, it's a little different. But I would say the biggest thing is more so like the bigs and the forwards than the guards, because the guards are usually the same at each level. You're gonna have good guards. There's so many good guards out here, which is why you see a lot of like guys that go up, maybe transfer higher and have success in the portal. But I think at that level, like the bigs and the forwards are just so like it's another level. I mean, you talk about the SEC, you got guys 6'7", 6'8" that are like shooting guards, and they're like jumping out the gym. It's like, all right, like we don't have anything like that over here. So that's the biggest difference. I'll say it's just the size and athleticism of a lot of those bigger teams.
Let me do a quick reset for anybody just jumping in now that doesn't know our guest. His name is Aaron Ace Robinson. He and his brother. What's your brother's name, by the way?
Andrew Robinson.
Andrew Robinson started a company called All Facts Media, and they cover basketball. And Aaron is also writing for NBC Sports as well, doing some NBA coverage. I want to talk to you about what just recently took place in Maryland, but I want to go back to December. Were you shocked that Mark Turgeon ended up, let's call it what it is, he really quit? You can slice it and dice it any way you want, but he really quit on his guys that he had recruited. Did you feel that way about what Turgeon did when he left? And what did you think of Damon Evans, his process? He was very quiet about this, not a lot leaked out, but your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wasn't shocked at the move. I was shocked at the timing. Like you rarely see a coach at that time of the season just for lack of a better term, just quit, right? But I was at the Virginia Tech game at home. I was at the George Mason game at home, and like the fans were literally booing him at home in the Kennedy Center. Like he couldn't escape it. Like you walk onto the court and the cheers aren't, the stands aren't as packed as they normally are at Xfinity Center, and then a team goes on a 15-0 run or 10-0 run or something, and you hear boos during the game. Like, and I think that, plus obviously on Twitter, the fans were voicing their opinions. And I think everywhere he turned, it wore him out. Like the fans at the end of the day wore him out. And I think he just kind of got wore out. You would see him at press conferences. He just didn't look like he was having fun anymore. Like it's crazy because I remember the first game that Danny Manning coached at Northwestern game on that Saturday was a noon game. And so I remember I went to the game at noon, and then I got over to the map. They had it was a takeover tour with the National High School Showcase. And obviously there's a bunch of top players. Derek Lively was playing there. So a bunch of coaches were over there that day. And I talked to one of the other coaches. He's like, yeah, man, this Maryland stuff is crazy. He's like, man, it's crazy because I talked to Turgeon this summer, and he was like, yeah, man, like I'm tired of it, man. Like it's just like I'm tired of the job. It's just wearing on me. And I think he obviously they had a pretty good team on paper coming in. So I think he just wanted to see what was going to happen with that season. I think the first few games, you could see it just wasn't going to turn out the way that he expected it to turn out, and the fans were letting him know about it. And I think he knew that it just wasn't it wasn't going to end up the way that he thought it was going to end up. And so it just wore him out. And then he ended up obviously making the decision that he did, which probably did obviously Damon Evans obviously to promote Danny Manning, associate head coach. And it's crazy. I remember back in November, December, I was hearing Kevin Willard's name back in literally in November when the opening job first opened, he was the leader in the clubhouse from day one. Like, people were sprinkling maybe a Ed Cooley just because of the fact that he was having success at Providence, and because of the fact that he's a Northeast guy, and the fact that obviously Maryland could pay him a little bit more than Providence is paying him right now. But people kind of just, as the season went on, there was more, people were talking about how he was going to probably end up staying at Providence, which looks like it's going to happen. And so Willard was really the front runner from day one. Yeah. Obviously, there were, I think, there was an inside chance that Danny Manning was able to turn it, that he could have got the job, but obviously that would have been a long shot. But I think Willard's a great hire, man. I think he's somebody that obviously Seton Hall is an extremely tough job, and I don't think people really realize how tough a job that is. Yeah. The job that he did there with the players that he was able to get in there and the success that he was able to have at that university. And obviously the Under Armour connection is there, but I think then he ended up getting the best hire that they were going to end up getting in that situation. So I think it was a good hire, and I think just the way that it went out was kind of interesting. I think a similarity, you see how Louisville kind of do the same thing with when Chris Mack got canned in the middle of the year, and Kenny Payne was kind of the name that everybody was saying, and then it went quiet for a while, and then it ended up being Kenny Payne. I think the similar thing happened here with Willard in Maryland.
I want to ask you about Willard, and I want to ask you, why do you think it's a good hire? In other words, your assessment of him as a coach and what he can do at the University of Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing with Willard is that he's won at a place that is extremely hard to win at. Like, before he got there, Seton Hall was one of the worst jobs in the Big East, right? Like, it was a bad job. I don't know if people have ever been to Seton Hall and like seeing the campus and seeing the resources that they have over there, but like, my campus at Quinnipiac was better than Seton Hall's campus. Like, I'm not exaggerating one bit. Facilities, like the whole 9 yards, is better than the stuff that they got over there at Seton Hall. And obviously they won a Big East regular season championship, a Big East tournament championship, and he's won the Coach of the Year. I think they said he was one of only, I think there's like 5 coaches in the last 10 years. I think it might have been 6 coaches in the last 10 years that have won all 3: a regular season title, a conference tournament title, and a Coach of the Year award in the league. He was able to recruit pros. Like, he had, obviously, Angel Delgado played for a while in the league. Isaiah Whitehead played for a little while in the league. Miles Powell played in and out of the league right now as we speaking. I think he's somebody that we talk about, because I think a big thing is this, right? Like, a lot of people don't understand that Maryland wasn't going to be able to get a Nate Oates, Eric Musselman, people talking about Chris Holtman leaving Ohio State. Like, they don't have the money to pay. They didn't have the money to pay those guys. Like, so you weren't gonna be able to pay a Boyan who has a $10 million buyout at Oklahoma State. Like, Maryland couldn't pay that. So like, you had to get a guy like they're paying Willard is an average salary. I think it's around like 3.9 to get up to around 4.2 from what I'm understanding. But if you compare that to other salaries like at these Power 5 schools, like it's not the same. Like, so I think when you think about the money that they were going to be able to pay for a coach, and just the success that Willard has had, I think he was the best possible candidate that you were going to get with considering those 2 factors. And I think that, I think he's somebody that has, high upside if he can come and replicate the success that he had at Seton Hall. Obviously, the big knock on him is that he hasn't won in the tournament. He only had one NCAA tournament win, which is essentially what the fans were mad at Turgeon about, because we couldn't never get past the Sweet 16 here at Maryland. But I think with the resources, I think Willard will be able to get it rolling. I think the staff is key. We've already seen one guy that he's going to hire on the staff, and Tony Skinn. I think the staff is going to be key, but I think if he's able to get the right staff together, I think he's going to be able to do some things here that will make the fans happy.
So let me keep it going then on Kevin Willard. I don't disagree with most of what you said. I think that money was a factor, and I think that some of these other high-flying Power 5 coaches that you're talking about would never have really entertained the Maryland job anyway. But forget about that for a minute, okay? Yeah. Let's talk about what matters. And what matters is there a huge difference between Mark Turgeon and Kevin Willard? And here's my point. Kevin Willard's never even made it to a Sweet 16. Okay, at least Mark Turgeon did. Kevin Willard has pretty much the same offensive and defensive philosophies that Mark Turgeon has. Slow moving on offense, defensive philosophies as well. So my question is not so much who the competition was and why they chose Kevin Willard, but is there really that much of a difference between what Mark Turgeon brought to the program and what Kevin Willard can actually bring to the program?
Yeah, I think you are right in that they are similar, right? Like both of those guys are you're not going to really, get up and play a high-paced offense.
Right. Slow it down, bang it up, do all that.
Slow it down. We're going to defend. We're going to rebound.
Right.
And we're going to win with toughness, right? And so I think in that sense, that they are similar. But I think the thing, like I said, like Seton Hall is a hard place to win at. So the success that he had there, I wouldn't say the fact that he never got to Sweet 16 is that alarming for me, just because of the fact that I think it's extremely hard to do that at that university. What I will say is that I think he has a higher ceiling just because of the fact that with what Maryland is a basketball program and the resources that we have here, I think he'll be able to do more with the program than what Mark Turgeon was able to do with it here, right? I think his ceiling is just a little bit higher in that aspect, and I do think that there's something to be said about somebody that I think, because I've had an opportunity to watch a little bit of his interviews. I think he has a personality. He's somebody that I think the fans will end up gravitating to with time, right? I think a lot of the things that Mark Turgeon wasn't the best at getting out. Mark Turgeon was a basketball coach, right? He was a I'm going to coach you. I'm not going to get out there and kiss your babies and hug fans, and I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I think Willard will be able to do a little bit more of that. As far, I think the fans will be able to get behind him with time, right? Like he's somebody that'll do stuff in the community. He'll get out there. I think the fans will be able to get behind him, so it won't be as stressful of a situation, between them and between the administration. So I think in that aspect, I think with all things considered, I think Willard will be able to do a little bit more with what we have to offer here at Maryland than Turgeon was able to do.
So let me ask you one more question about maybe the difference between Turgeon and Willard off the court. Okay, yeah. You have a pretty good idea playing in this, growing up in this metro area, and playing for as long as you have, coming back to play at Coppin State. And you mentioned all the kids that you played with growing up and playing against one another, and now you see them in the NCAA tournament. Do you think that Turgeon did a good job of keeping the players in Maryland that he should have gotten to come to Maryland and not letting them get away? And do you think Willard can do a better job of getting a higher level of player to stay from Maryland to come to Maryland?
Yeah. Well, the simple answer to the first question is no. Mark Turgeon didn't do a good enough job at getting the guys to stay home. You look at Villanova with Justin Moore and Brandon Slater, and being that's just
absolutely.
Last year you had Sadiq Bey and Phil Booth and Josh Hart and Chris Jenkins, and obviously Michigan has Hunter Dickinson.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
And all these guys are going. But the thing is, a lot of those guys are takeover guys, and the problem was Keith Williams, who runs takeover, he kind of had this whole area in a chokehold for a while. Maryland only got 2 takeover kids. One of them was Jalen Smith. And the only reason they got Jalen Smith was because he's a Baltimore kid. That wasn't necessarily more of a takeover thing, more that was like a Baltimore thing. Because Maryland had done well in Baltimore, obviously with Sticks, with Daryl Morcell. There's been a few more guys that have come through that kind of lane over the past few years from Baltimore. And then they got Deion Wiley, who was a takeover guy, but his situation was a little bit different because they had to get the guy Delonte Hill at the time was the one that kind of recruited Deion Wiley here. That he ended up obviously getting in trouble. He had to leave. So since that connection was since that Bridges brother, they haven't been able to get any takeover kids. So the hope is that with this new staff with Willard, they'll be able to get some of those area kids, right? So I think Tony Stanton's going to be huge in that aspect, just being from here, having recruited the area, having been with Willard at Seton Hall for a long time. The rumors that he's going to get David Cox, who was up at Rhode Island.
I heard he's almost got him.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah, it should be pretty much done. They're probably going to announce it in the next day or so.
Okay, that's a nice get.
So that'll be really big for him, being able to have 2 guys that are from the area that have huge ties to the area and that can get. Because Cox was tied to the DC Premier, he's big with the DC Premier program. So I think that's going to be key for him. Just being able to get kids from the area, having 2 guys that are from here that have ties to the area, I think they're going to be huge for him. So in a short answer, yes, I do think Willard's going to have a lot better chance to get some local guys to stay home than I think Mark Turgeon did. And hopefully, I think, like I said, I think the staff is the biggest part of it. I think those 2 guys, Tony Skinn and David Cox, are going to be huge in getting that done.
Hey Ace, we're gonna have you back on. You're doing a great job talking hoops. I want to ask you if you watched much of the tournament that's going on right now.
Oh, of course. I
Okay.
watched
Got to.
I thought that the Duke Michigan State game was one of the best basketball games from start to finish that I can remember watching. I thought it was just a brilliant little chess match, and the energy level of both teams. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this tournament has been outstanding. If I had to pick a game of the tournament, I don't know what it would be, because there have been some outstanding games. You mentioned Duke, Michigan State, but I don't know if you guys were up late enough for that. That TCU Arizona game was outstanding.
That was great. That was great.
Was an outstanding basketball game. Even Baylor, North Carolina was an outstanding basketball game.
That was a great game.
Houston, Illinois was a great game too. I mean, there have been some.
There have
even
been
in the first four. That Notre Dame and Rutgers game was unbelievable in the first four. The buzzer beaters and I think the double overtime games start the tournament off. So there have been unbelievable basketball games in this tournament. I know there's gonna be some more this weekend, because there's some outstanding games coming up in the Sweet 16 this weekend. But that Duke Michigan State game was classic. I mean, it was Krzyzewski, it was Izzo. You know, it was everything that we expected it to be, man. And I was surprised that I wasn't surprised because it was Izzo and it was K. It was round 32, but Michigan State hadn't been that team all season long, right? Like we've seen it in flashes when they beat Purdue late in the season, and obviously they had a great non-conference. But you know, for them to play that well in that spot was huge, man. So I mean, it was like you said, man. It was a great basketball game, and Duke was able to survive. And they're gonna get another test in this round in the Sweet 16 with Texas Tech. So I'm sure that's gonna be another one that's gonna come down to the wire as well, man. But
that game starts tonight about 9:30, I think.
9:39,
something like that. That should be a wild game. Do you think, Duke, you and I and Gary were talking before we went live tonight, and you gave us a stat that didn't shock me, because I keep saying that Coach K hasn't been the same the last 6 or 7 years, because his teams never have any veteran experience. And you blew me away. You said Texas Tech's average age is 22 and Duke is 19. Yep. Can his team, though, they're immensely talented, but could they beat Texas Tech tonight? I know they're the higher seed, but it seems like a daunting task to me. It's like the boys versus the men.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, the youth is, I mean, old wins in college basketball, right? So, like, the older you are, that's like all these coaches try to get old and stay old, right? And I think.
Well, wait a minute. Does that mean that Gary and I could start a team and we could play?
Oh, of course.
It doesn't mean that.
Well,
look, you guys could be first team All-Americans. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, man.
We're first team all memories, but go ahead on that.
But I think the thing about Duke is that, like you mentioned, man, they're so talented and they're so long and athletic, right? Like Mark Williams and Theo John, those guys down low. Like Texas Tech doesn't have anything like that. They don't have, like, they have tough guys that are going to defend you, they're going to guard you, they're going to get rough with you, but they don't really have overwhelming length and size down low, right? So I think that's one thing where Duke can potentially take advantage of. And Texas Tech doesn't have, like, I think the tournament is going to come down to, I think, guard play, right? Like, guard play wins games, and they don't have an overwhelming guy, the point guard that just says, all right, this guy is really gonna take over this game, right? So I think that's something that I'm gonna be looking at. Like right now, they actually turn the ball over on 20% of their possessions, and when they play at such a slow, grinding out tempo that, like, if they turn the ball over, they've been great through their first 2 rounds, right? They're taking care of the ball. So if they can take care of the ball versus Duke, I think they'll have a great chance to win that game. But my biggest thing is going to be Jeremy Roach, Trevor Keels, Wendell Moore. How do those Duke guards deal with that physicality that Texas Tech is going to bring them on defensive end, man? Because if Roach, as a sophomore point guard now, if he's not handling that pressure well, then I think Duke is going to be in for a long night, because they don't have great point guard play, to be honest. Like when Roach is good, you saw that last round with Michigan State. Roach was out. He probably played his best game of the year versus Michigan State last game, and they were able to win a close game. But when he's not good, Duke isn't good. So I think that's going to be the key to this game, is the guard play and whose guards come ready to play. And if Duke's do, I think they'll have a great chance to win the game.
Gary, you got one more, and then I'll.
Yeah, I'm just curious from a player's perspective for a minute. So we all know what St. Peter's did to get to the Sweet 16, only the third 15 seed ever to do that. Now they're in the Sweet 16. They got a tough match against Purdue. A, do you think it ends with Purdue? And B, the week between the first and second round to the Sweet 16, Does that favor St. Peter's or does that favor its opponent?
To answer your first question, I think it ends tonight. I think Purdue was like if you had to pick 16 teams in this tournament that they would have wanted to play, I think they would probably been the one team that they didn't want to play. Them and probably Gonzaga as well. But just because like Zach Edey and Travion Williams are so imposing down low, like they don't have anything for that. I was hoping, just being a basketball fan, that Texas would have beaten Purdue last game because Texas doesn't have near the size on the interior that Purdue does. Nobody does, except for maybe a Gonzaga with Timmy and Chet Holmgren, or Michigan with Hunter Dickinson and Musa Diabate. But I think their size and athleticism down low was just so overwhelming. Like St. Peter's is gonna have a tough time slowing that down. Like I don't know. Like obviously Casey Nadefo was the defensive player in the year in the MAC 3 years in a row, but he's only 6'7", probably. Like how's
he gonna deal?
Yeah, you're asking so much of him. Even if you try to double, like Purdue has shooters. Obviously Jaden Ivey's probably gonna be a top 3, top 4 pick in the draft this year. And just their size and then just their talent, I think it's gonna be too much for St. Peter's to overcome. What I will say is that St. Peter's is playing with house money. They have nothing to lose, right? Like nobody thought they were gonna beat Kentucky in that first round game, dealing with Sheboy. And Sheboy had 30 and 10. But I will say that like they don't necessarily have to stop Edey, but they have to make him play their brand of basketball, bring him away from the basket, maybe get him in foul trouble. Because even Sheboy, he had 30 and 10 in that opening round game, and they still won the game. So like, but they shut out everyone else. Like none of those other guys in Kentucky really got off in that game. So it's going to be hard to do that with Purdue. We're dealing with a guy like Jaden Ivey, Sasha Stefanovic, and guys like that who can really shoot the ball and who are just really good basketball players. But I think for St. Peter's, like I said, man, you're playing with house money, man, and I think all the pressure's on Purdue. There's no pressure on St. Peter's. Like everybody all week has been telling Purdue, oh, you're gonna walk to the Elite Eight, you potentially could be go to the Final Four for the first time in X amount of years at Purdue and this and that, and they have to come out and play, right? So like all the pressure's on them. Like if Shy Holloway loses this game, nobody's gonna say anything on St. Peter's. Like nobody's gonna. But if Purdue loses this game, then they're never gonna hear the end of it. So like St. Peter's is playing with house money. I don't know if they can pull it off, but obviously I think right now those guys are having the times of their lives. They're enjoying the ride, and they're gonna come out there and they're gonna play like it. So don't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised they came out and jumped out to like a 10-2 lead, and then Purdue's going to go on like a 20-0 run, and then the game is over from there or something like that. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun game to watch though.
I'm going to ask Aaron. I'm going to ask you real quick one question, then I got a little bit more detailed question involving a one-time Baltimore figure. But tell me who you think will win the tournament.
I think Gonzaga's going to win the tournament. I think Gonzaga has the best combination of getting old. They have old players that have been there, players that have been around the block. They have great guard play, and Andrew Nemhard, he's been outstanding all year. I think he's been really underrated. People out here playing the WCC. A lot of people don't say it and watch the games, and they're on the West Coast 3 hours back. So people don't really watch a lot of their games, but he's been one of the best point guards in the league in the country all season long. Then obviously you have Chet, you have Timmy, these two twin towers down there in the post that people are just going to have a hard time. Like Drew Timmy just single-handedly took over the game versus Memphis, and there was nobody on the floor that could do anything about it. And they had NBA guys over there, and obviously Jalen Duran's going to be a lottery pick this year, and he couldn't do anything with Drew Timmy. And I think those two guys, man, just the talent level of those two guys, and then you mix that in with a Nemhard, with a Rasir Bolton, and just Drawther, and the guys that they have around those guys. I think they are, and then they've been there. Like they had guys like Drew Timmy, Andrew Nemhard. Those guys lost the championship game last year to Baylor. So they felt that pain losing before. They lost in the tournament before. They're old guys, and they want to get it done. Like they want to avenge the loss to Baylor last year, and they want to be the first team to win a championship for Mark Few at Gonzaga. And I think that they're the most talented team, and they're the most complete team left in the field. So I think that's the team that I would go with to pick if I had to pick one to win the tournament.
And I want to ask you about a curious figure. He was from Baltimore. He played his basketball in high school in Baltimore, and then he went to Duke, and his name is Steve Wojciechowski. Everything in life is timing. And I lived in Durham for 3.5, 4 years. And Wojo was one of Coach K's top assistants, along with Chris Collins. And we knew that one of the two of them, they were dying to get that job. They just didn't know when Coach K would. And I think Coach K finally talked to them about 7, 8 years ago and said, hey, I'm not ready to retire. You ought to go out and get jobs. And Chris Collins, I don't know how he's kept his job at Northwestern, but Wojo didn't keep his job at Marquette. But everything's timing. So John Shire's on his staff. He ends up getting the job that I know Wojo wanted. Where is the next stopping point, or what could be the next stopping point for Steve Wojciechowski?
Man, interesting question. I think for him, he's probably gonna have to take if a major job were to come open somewhere in the Midwest. I don't know if he's in the mix for the job at all. Maybe even like a Murray State, right? Like a Murray State, obviously that's open now. That man took LSU. I think he's gonna have a tough time getting back into a Power 5 job just because of the fact that he just got fired from one in Marquette, and one that is really a great basketball job, right? Like we've seen what Buzz Williams did there over his tenure there. We're seeing what Shaka's been able to do in year one there. Like that's just a basketball school. Like that's probably a top 3, top 4 job in the Big East because of how much that they care about basketball and the resources that they have important to that program. So I think for him, it's probably going to take him stepping away, and obviously he's been away for now a year. But maybe just a mid-major job in the Midwest, right? I think his name was getting kind of floated for a job this cycle. I forgot which one it was. It might have been like an Illinois State, maybe that name's getting floated for. But one of those Midwest jobs that come open, or obviously you mentioned his ties to this area. If it's a job that comes open on the East Coast, that he is interested in. I think you'll hear his name come up again, but I think it would have to be a good fit regionally. I think it would have to be something that he would also want to do, because I think he'll get another job eventually. Like if he waits long enough, or plays his cards the right way. So, but I think it would be interesting to see what job he ends up getting. But I would guess maybe like a mid-major job, maybe in the Midwest, or even something closer to the East Coast would be something that he would probably jump at.
So let me ask you quick on this from a career perspective for a second. Do you think it makes more sense for a guy like Steve Wojciechowski to accept a top assistant's position at a Power 5 school, or accept a head coaching position at a mid-major school from a career perspective?
Yeah,
Good
I
question.
think because he's so young, taking a high major assistant job wouldn't, like he could get on if he gets on with the right guy. Like if he gets on with a guy that is going to be able to win and have some success, I think he'd be able to get back into it, right? Because he's not an old guy. It's crazy because we're talking about this with Frank Martin with UMass, and obviously he's at South Carolina, and a guy like Frank Martin, who's a little bit older, like his worry that if he takes a year off, he might not be able to get back in, right? If he sits around and does TV things for a year or two, like he might not be able to get back in. So like a job like UMass is open now. If he can go there, and obviously UMass is an extremely hard job to win at, right? Like the only guy that's won there is really Calipari, and guys that didn't win there before him, guys haven't won there since. So, but if he can go there and just kind of keep his head above water, for a year or two, and then maybe get back into it and get another high major job, that'd be better for somebody like him. But for a guy like Wojo, who's younger, maybe if he can get back on that Duke, or maybe if he can get on at some high major with a guy that's going to be able to turn it potentially, then I think it'd be some benefit for him to get back on a staff somewhere. But I do think because he was at Duke for so long, and because he was at Marquette, and he's been a high major coach, like he has some margin for error in terms of like he can sit for a little minute, and his name, like people will still know who he is. He'll still have a chance to get back in if he wants to get back in eventually. So I think he doesn't necessarily have to get back in right now.
And Coach K will work hard to get him somewhere.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hey, we did one terrible thing on this show tonight. We didn't give you a chance to tell us a little bit about All Facts Media. Where can people read yours and your brother's writing?
Yeah, we have a website called allfactsmediainc.com. So if you type that into your browser, allfactsmediainc.com, you'll see our written content is on there. A link to our podcast is on there. We have some video interviews on there that you can watch. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at All Facts Media. A lot of our content is on Twitter as well. We have game recaps and stuff. Remember during the season when we're going to games and we're going to all these different schools, stand-ups and press conferences and stuff like that are usually going to live on our Twitter page. Then more of our longer interviews, and we have coaches come on the podcast. That's going to be on our website. And obviously our written stuff is on our website.
What's the podcast called again?
It's called The Auto Bid.
The Auto Bid. I like that.
Auto Bid, like you're punching an automatic bid to the tournament.
I like that. I like that.
Podcast is called.
Hey, so thanks for doing this. We really appreciate it, Aaron. All right.
Wait. Let me ask you a quick one.
Harry's got one more thing.
Aaron, how old are you?
I'm 25.
So you're doing all this stuff at 25 years old.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
That's awesome, man. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Congratulations.
I really
Congratulations.
appreciate that.
You got a
No.
great smile too, and keep it. All right, Aaron.
Thank you guys for having me on, man. I'm down to come on whenever. So you guys ever
All
need me
right.
to come on,
His name is
I'd be
Aaron.
happy to come back on.
All right. His name is Aaron Ace Robinson. I'll tell you when we'll get you back on. When the NBA playoffs start, we'll get you back
Yeah.
on. All
For
right.
sure. I'm down
All
to
right,
come
again,
in whenever.
It's All Facts Media Inc. INC, right?
Yep.
.com. All
Yep.
right.
All Facts
We
Media
thank
Inc.
you.
INC.com. Yep.
We
And
thank
on
you.
Twitter and
Remind you.
Instagram at All Facts Media.
All right. We remind everybody that watched tonight that we're brought to you by the Costas Inn. Not just a great place to go and sit and eat in, but the best place around to eat out, to take out. The Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. Phone number 410-477-1975. I'll be back Monday night with Ross Grimsley, and Gary and I will have, are we going to have David?
We are
Bascom?
David Bascom next week. Yep.
His book is just about out. Red Card. We'll talk to him about why he wrote that book. Thanks again to Aaron Ace Robinson of All Facts Media. Good night, everybody.
Good night.